The federal government announced new financial help today for industries hit hard by U.S. tariffs. The measures target the steel, aluminum and copper sectors. The CBC's Karina Roman joins me now live from Ottawa with more on this. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about these new supports that were announced this morning.
So the government, to prop up or further prop up the hard-hit steel, aluminum and copper sectors, is going to be establishing a $1 billion loan program that will be administered through the Business Development Bank of Canada, as well as a separate $500 million fund that gives money to companies who are hard hit that the government says or characterizes are making strategic pivots, usually pivots away from the U.S. market. Now, these measures follow previous measures to help these sectors that have been grappling with the so-called 232 tariffs. And these are the tariffs that the government has not yet or so far been able to negotiate away, but hoping to within the CUSMA review that is upcoming. Now, these packages, newly offered, come after a move by the Trump administration in early April that extended these 232 sectoral tariffs to apply to more products. So they include now previously exempted what we call derivatives like steel coils and aluminum sheets. And so that is really the impetus for these new helps that Mélanie Joly, the minister, addressed today. Have a listen.
We talk to CEOs across the country that have been impacted by these new tariffs. What I hear, and even talking obviously to unions, is everybody is in the same fight. We're in a trade war, we're on the front lines, and the goal is to protect workers and actually keep companies afloat. So our goal is really to make sure ultimately that the businesses keep their workforces and that we can help them pivot. And it's not an easy task.
Now, as she says, these tariffs especially will have a huge impact on the manufacturing sector in Canada. They're the ones who are likely going to feel the consequences of these new tariffs on derivatives. I should mention that today's loan program, Arthi, includes provisions that companies don't have to start repaying the loans for 3 years. And so that's also a significant factor here.
So now, Karina, as we look at these new supports, is it an admission by the federal government that sectoral tariffs, for example, are here to stay at least until the end of Donald Trump's term?
Well, that is a question directly put to Minister Joly today. And if not, at least if it's not just to the end of Trump's term, could it possibly be an admission that these sectoral tariffs are here for even much longer than that? Here's what she said in answer to that question.
You don't know, I don't know. So this is not up to us to answer that question because these decisions will be taken south of our border. Meanwhile, we just don't sit idle waiting for things to happen. We act.
Now, that 3-year repayment schedule that they don't have to start repaying the loans until 3 years from now isn't just about an admission of any sort. Mélanie Joly says that it's really about the ability to giving businesses the ability to make longer-term plans, longer-term investments in their businesses. She also faced questions today about oversight because there have been some exemptions given in the U.S. to Canadian steel, for example, for certain projects that are, I guess, more highly valued in the U.S. And, should those companies benefit from these new measures? Mélanie Joly said that, any of these new measures are scoped very thoroughly. They're tracked very carefully. She reminded the audience that 20% of revenues need to be affected by the tariffs to be eligible for these programs. She also said that this is not just about survival, but they're actually hoping that this could lead to additional hiring, to actual company growth. Obviously, we'll have to talk to the companies to see if they see that potential as well. She was also very intent on pointing out, because she actually said, well, no one's asked me, so I'm going to say this out loud, is there are going to be additional supports as well coming for the softwood lumber and forestry sectors. She clearly felt that that was important to point out proactively at this news conference. And as we've been talking about, these come on after a series of measures that have already been announced, other loan programs, tariff rate quotas, counter tariffs, the Buy Canadian procurement policy. So you get a sense that those perhaps have been working, but obviously with these new derivative tariffs coming into effect, there was a need for more than what had already been put in place.
Karina, thank you for this. That's the CBC's Karina Roman in Ottawa.